What's up YouTube community, Bernd here, welcome back to another video lesson. This is part 2 of a small 2-part experiment that we are working on, what happens when we combine the sound and system of the pentatonic scale with the modes. So if you did not watch the first part from last week, make sure to check it out before you continue with this video because it serves as a good foundation for what's ahead. This time we will focus on combining the very popular minor pentatonic scale with the modes, so let's get started right away. So last time we checked out how to infuse the major pentatonic scale with a Lydian vibe. By adding the quite dissonant raised 4th scale degree, we get a very interesting sound here. As promised, we will check out a similar approach for the minor pentatonic scale. We will combine it with the sound of Dorian. So here's the scale position I prepared for you this week. So as you can see, we only have to change one note again. We add the characteristic Dorian interval, the major 6. But before we start with that, let's revisit the basic pentatonic scale once again. So this is the A minor pentatonic scale in its most popular position on the fretboard. We're starting with the root A, playing the minor 3rd C, perfect 4th D, perfect 5th E, the power chord. Then we're playing the minor 7th G, and here we are again at the octave of the root A. Those are all the notes in the A minor pentatonic scale. Again, we're just working with 5 notes here in contrast to the heptatonic major or minor scales where we have 7 notes available. So if I continue with this system all across the different strings, I end up with A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G. A, C, and so on. I'm sure that you're familiar with this one already. It's the scale and also the scale position or box that we all started out with in the beginning. As I already demonstrated in the video where I talked about composing shred licks in the pentatonic scale, we could extend it to a 3-note per string pattern. Instead of playing, I could also play. So that way I can come up with cool and fast runs in triplets. Quite some stretching involved, but it's worth the struggle. If you're not familiar with this system, make sure to check out the video I made about it. But again, with this one, we actually want to change the sound of the minor pentatonic scale. In order to do that, we want to combine it with the modes once again. As I said in the video last week, there are minor and major modes, and we mostly only have to change one note from the natural major or minor scale to get to them. For this week, we will focus on Dorian. So once again, I want to check out the difference between natural minor or Aeolian and the Dorian mode. So here's the A natural minor scale just in one position, in one octave. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, up to the octave A again. And this is the Dorian mode. We are playing the same notes, A, B, C, D, E, and then we are changing the minor 6th interval F to a major 6th interval F sharp. That is the only difference. Instead of. So once again, I want you to remember that the only difference between natural minor or Aeolian and the Dorian mode is the raised 6th scale degree or the major 6th interval. By memorizing that, you can just learn the natural minor scale, the A natural minor scale for example, over the entire fretboard, and you just have to change F to F sharp in every single position or in every single octave, and then you get the Dorian mode. So you don't have to study Aeolian and Dorian. Those are not completely different scales. They are closely related and you just have to know which notes you have to change. So that is the key information that I want to get across with my students. You don't have to learn all those scales individually, they're all connected in a way. So if you paid very close attention last week, you might have noticed that we also raised F to F sharp to get from C major to C Lydian. So when we are playing C Lydian or A Dorian, we're essentially playing the same notes in a different order, and F sharp is the characteristic note in both cases. In C Lydian it's the raised 4th scale degree, and in A Dorian it is the major 6th interval. So that is another very important detail I want you to memorize. C Lydian and A Dorian are related in the same way as C major and A minor. So this might look like a very tempting shortcut if you can't play the A Dorian scale all across the neck, but you can already play the C Lydian scale all across the neck. You just play C Lydian instead of A Dorian, but that way you won't know where the characteristic interval that actually makes the Dorian sound so great is located at in every position, and you won't be able to accent it further to bring out that sound. So for my example in the beginning, when I was combining the 5-note and 2-note per string approach of the pentatonic scale with the Dorian mode, I got something like that. So once again we were starting with the root A on the 5th fret on the low E string, then I was playing the minor 3rd C, perfect 4th D, perfect 5th E, and then instead of going to the minor 7th G, I was playing the characteristic Dorian interval, the major 6th F sharp in our case. And here I am at the octave of the root. And that is an entirely different sound than So here's the reason why I want to show you Dorian and not Phrygian when we talk about combining the minor pentatonic scale with a minor mode. Phrygian is basically known as the absolute metal scale since it features that lowered second scale degree, and it's perfect for soloing over riffs like that one, where I'm having that semitone above the root, like E, F, G, instead of E, F sharp, G, like we would have it in the natural minor scale, in the E natural minor scale. That is the sound of Phrygian. So we need the Phrygian scale here. But for metal improvisation I mostly like to use the 3-note per string approach to come up with cool patterns like that one. So I would end up with a classic 3-note per string approach for the E Phrygian scale that I just demonstrated. But since the major 6th interval is responsible for the characteristic Dorian sound, we often need it in the context of riffs like that, where this interval is heavily featured, or in chords, for example. Here we have an A minor, a basic A minor chord with F sharp on the top. And riffs or chords like that mostly occur in the environment of blues, jazz or fusion. And especially in blues it can be cool when you're improvising over the classic alternating perfect 5th and major 6th interval. And you're playing the classic minor pentatonic scale, maybe also including the blue note. Hopefully also including the blue note. And then suddenly you're accenting that characteristic Dorian interval that's also included in the riff or chord you're playing over. That can sound really cool. So that is what I want you to practice this week. Find a cool backing track here on YouTube and switch between the pentatonic scale, the A minor pentatonic scale for example, and then switch to the modal pentatonic scale, where we are adding that characteristic Dorian interval. You will see that you can add a really cool sound to your improvised takes that way, and you can switch between the minor pentatonic and the Dorian approach without getting out of the 2-note per string mindset, without switching between two completely different scales. So that system essentially allows you to go back and forth between those two sounds quite easily. I really hope that you enjoyed this 2-part episode on the modal pentatonic shapes. Please let me know if that topic is interesting for you. We can also check out more modal pentatonic shapes in the future for Phrygian, Mixolydian and Locrian if that's interesting for you. As always, you can find the PDF tab sheets and the guitar profiles for this lesson and actually for all lessons that I publish on YouTube on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Bernd. Thanks a lot for watching this episode. In the end, please make sure to subscribe to stay updated for more free guitar lessons. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video, that really means a lot to me, or a comment in case you have any questions that I could answer for you. I will see you in the next lesson next week. All the best until then and have fun practicing.